Scottsdale almost 30 years, and you've all indicated that public safety is a number one priority. Yet about a year ago, the City Council, the present City Council, hired 3 individuals, the business development officers being paid about $150,000 apiece. That's almost $500,000. To see and figure out how we can urbanize Scottsdale by putting in high-rises, roundabouts, apartment complexes. Where then does the priority fall? Does it fall with urbanizing Scottsdale or putting number one priority on the public safety area?
You know, there seems to be developing this impression that folks who are for citizens' interests or the homeowners' interests are anti-development. And public safety is the first and foremost thing a citizen wants. I chose to live in Scottsdale. I love living in Scottsdale. Feeling safe from crime and feeling safe from my home burning down are a priority. Now, to speak to the second part of your question, should policy be directed toward urbanization of Scottsdale? Well, it depends on who you ask what urbanization means and how far is too far. I think Mr. Phillips has said that quite often. How much is too much? How far is too far? But frankly, our number one priority is to preserve what Scottsdale is right now. If we're going to grow correctly and smartly. But to preserve what it is right now, we have to preserve public safety, first and foremost.
As I stated earlier, I lived in all 3 parts of this city, and I have never felt unsafe. So regardless of any other aspect, whether you're in a high-rise, whether you're in a single family, a multifamily, it doesn't matter. If you don't have public safety, you don't have a quality of life. So to me, public safety is the one thing that the city evolves around, whether that's emergency services, fire services, police protection. It doesn't matter. If you don't feel safe, why would you ever want to live there? So it doesn't matter where you live.
Delicate balance, and as we grow, we're able to hire more police and fire, and as we have to balance what cities, what different jobs are, we have to have certain people. We've got to have someone to turn the water on. We have to have these other jobs. So I do believe it's a balance that we need to maintain.
Thanks for that question. Boy, that strikes a nerve with me. I couldn't agree with you anymore. I go to, like I said before, virtually all the council meetings, and it amazes me. We have all the time in the world for zoning attorneys who want to get around our development standards. We schedule special meetings for this. They go on till 11, 12 o'clock at night routinely, yet we don't seem to be able to find the time to schedule things that actually are priorities that the city council should be doing first, which is public safety. Drives me crazy. I agree with you 100%. It needs to change.
I believe what you were talking about was, I think, about a year ago when the city council decided to keep the pay freeze for another year. And then maybe a couple months after that, the city manager hired 5 people for vitality and economic development at a plus of almost $1 million a year. I mean, that's a slap in the face to public safety right there. So I think what he's saying is, should we be cutting public safety in order to go to other programs maybe that somebody else wants in the city, not necessarily what the public wants? And no, I don't think so. I think that the city council should represent the citizens, and the city manager is the one that represents the city, and the city council has to make sure that that doesn't overrun the citizens' rights.
With what they did and the $500,000 in salary, I mean, that's one thing. If public safety is funded adequately and didn't have to have all those cutbacks and didn't have to have the pay cut, those things that were talked about were to develop additional, increase the economy and to help the city financially in other ways, but not when public safety is suffering. That still has to be first, because if we're going to grow and develop, we need to make sure that we have adequate public safety in place already for that, not after the fact. It has to be first.
Well, I don't think it's quite fair to pit one department against another. We've all said that public safety is important, but other areas of the city are important too. In the case of the economic vitality department, there were people who left that were being replaced. And we have to remember that it's pretty critical to understand that in order to fund public safety, we've got to have economic vitality. So it doesn't mean that we only can have public safety and the money's just going to come flowing in. We have to work on creating the conditions here where we can have development, where we can bring in revenues, where we can increase sales taxes, bed taxes, all those things that help fund public service. So I think it'd be a fallacy to say we don't need economic development, all we need is public safety, because you have to have a way to fund it. it's important to look at not only the cost side, but the revenue side. And the revenue side is what I'm real focused on these days, because that's what pays for all these great services that we provide. And the better revenues are, the more we can pay our police and fire, and the more we can pay the other employees that are here as well.
We just funded the Scottsdale Visitors and Convention Bureau with another $1 million, $4 million, excuse me. If we were operating at a surplus, this would be okay, but we're not. And to make new hires when we're cutting public safety employees, that's just wrong. And that is why you have to have a council that will get involved, that will play hardball, and reach over and make these executive decisions, because the city management is making the wrong decisions and they're excluding our public safety personnel, and that's dangerous.
I think in tough economic times, to dish out $500,000 in a division like that, when we have everybody else in the city, like public safety and even rank and file employees, to ask them not to take a pay increase that they've now lost, but then to bring on new employees. And when it speaks to economic development, it doesn't take $500,000 for me to understand that there's 300 companies with 100,000 employees leaving California over the next year, moving over Arizona, over New Mexico, and going to Texas. Apple wanted to come to the Phoenix area. Our greater Phoenix chamber didn't even know they were even looking at the area, not that it was coming necessarily to Scottsdale, but we need to make sure that we have council people up there that can at least understand that we should go out and reach out to the other neighborhoods of California where their tax burdens are now pushing people out of the state to new places. And I don't think we need a $500,000 salary to try to understand that. That's a pretty easy solution, is to go over there and bring those companies.
Back in the old days in advertising, you'd hear from the small business, times get tough. And they go, oh, well, first thing we're cutting out is that advertising budget. Well, now hold on. You need more customers because everything's slowing down, so why would you cut that part out? We need advertising. We need development to continue on. The minute we could keep moving forward, we start going backward, and that takes everybody with us. But it should never, I don't believe that budget should impact that budget. Public safety, number one, but we need this too.